Hello, in today's video we're going to do enlargement and we're going to talk about a coordinate multiplication method. Now if you've already watched the negative scale factor videos, you'll already have seen this, but if not, this method is a way we can work with kind of vector style notations, but I'm going to take the simplest case where we're just at the origin and show you that we can just multiply our coordinates to get our final shape and what it's going to look like. We can apply this later onto doing some vectors, but I'm going to leave that for right now. And if you want to see more, look at the negative scale factor videos, as I've kind of done a similar method in there that you may use. So if you notice, our steps are a little bit shorter this time. But we have the requirement that our center is the origin. So we enlarge the shape with a scale factor of -2 using the origin as the center of enlargement. So like I said, this only works if your center is the origin. If not, you have to tweak it a little bit, this method. So we mark the center. Don't really have to do that with this one, but now we take our scale factor and we multiply by the x and y values in each coordinate. So to do this, I like labeling my coordinates. That way I can do the work elsewhere on the page and then just at the end bring it all together. So A is the point 1, 1. B is the point 1, 3. Sorry, 1, 3, and C is the point 3, 1. So what we end up doing here is to get our shape afterwards, after it's been enlarged, is we take our scale factor and we multiply one at a time each number inside our brackets. So this means, and I'm going to do this in red down here, our A prime, I'll call it, with this little tick above. You can just call it A tick if you want. We're going to take our scale factor and multiply into the brackets one at a time. So 1 times -2 and 1 times -2. B prime was going to be 1 times -2 and 3 times -2. And lastly, C prime is going to be 3 times -2 and 1 times -2. So that means our final coordinates, I'm just going to write them up top here so we can see them. So A prime, we're going to draw it at -2, -2. B prime, we're going to draw it at -2, -6. And C prime is going to be -6, -2. Okay. So here, let's find -2, -2. We'll label this A prime. We don't have to. I like labeling, just so if I have to go back, I know what I've done. -2, -6, and -6 doesn't actually land on here, so I apologize for that. But -6, -2, once again, the -6 doesn't land on that either. So -6 and -2. But we can still see the proof of concept work. So here, I've drawn in 3 of my lines. The dotted this time doesn't really matter. I'm still going to draw these other lines though through the center to show you that once again they line up. The B lines and the C lines might not be perfect just because I had to approximate our graph a little bit. But as you can see, they still actually line up, so I've done a pretty good approximation of what one unit was apart. So this is a proof of concept that you can just do multiplication. Uh, like I said, if you want to learn how to do kind of the vector method, I will do it sort of below, but you're not going to get a very good feel of it because it's at the origin. So with this one, like I said, if we actually want to say this vector method, I'll do it for 1 or 2 points so you can see. So we want to say how far from our center to a point. So we are going, for this first point, I'll call A. We have to go from our center to that point, we go 3 left and 3 up. So it's sort of what we're doing normally, but now we're just kind of writing out in coordinates. Then we'll work around clockwise and we'll label these. So B, it's negative, or sorry, not negative. We're going 4 left and 3 up, right? So 4 left and 3 up gets us to B. Right, so I'm just starting at the center every time and saying how I get to C if I was to go left or right and then go with my up or down. So here I'm going 4 left again, but now I'm going 5 up. With D, I'm going 2 left, and then I'm going 5 up. And last but not least, E, we are going 3 left and 4 up. Okay, so now what we're going to do is instead of having to multiply by that negative, all we end up doing for our A primes is multiply by the positive scale factor and swap. So an L becomes an R, and a U becomes a D, and vice versa. So they swap with each other. So that's all the negative's going to do for us, and then we still times by the half. So most of these are going to end up in fractional form, which is fine because we have little half spaces. So with here we have 3 halves, and then this will be R now, and same thing, 3 halves R. So this, like I said, this method works too, and you may use it. Some people just find it a little bit abstract at times, especially when you're not doing it when you're doing it like this and not with just a coordinate point. But if you can understand this when you get to year 10 and we start doing vectors, it'll make it a lot easier. So here we have 3 over 2 and we're going down. C prime, we have 2 to the right and we have 5 over 2, sorry, 5 over 2 down. D prime, we're going 1 to the right and 5 over 2 down. And lastly, E prime, that will be that 3 over 2, we're going to the left, and 2 down. Now, one thing I like to do is just kind of quickly go over and check that I've copied all the letters correctly. So that means any L's become R's, R's to L's. So I can already see I made a mistake in my E prime right there. 1, I didn't close the bracket. 2, I forgot to change it to an R. Otherwise, I've got them all correct there. So it's always good to check your work. So let's look at that first one. So like I said, we start at the center. I'm actually going to put it as a nice big green dot so I can hopefully not forget for myself. So every single one of these are from the center, and that's kind of what the operation we're doing. So in A prime, we're going 3 halves right. So 3 halves right, and then we're going 3 halves down. Right? And we know that as 1.5 or right, we know that as 1.5, negative 1.5. However, if you want to apply this when we don't have the center at that origin, this is how you would go about it. Because our center point would just be different on the page. It wouldn't be at that 0, 0 point as it is now. So this is just proof of concept, so you can take it and use it after. So B prime, we go 2 right, 3.5 down. So 2 right, 3 halves down. C prime, 2 right, 5 halves down. Then we have D prime, which is 1 right, and that's 5 halves down. And lastly, E prime, which is 3 halves right and 2 down. Once again, as always, we connect our lines. It might be a little bit too small for that one little one, so I'm actually just going to draw it in today. And there you are. So we're done. And at this point, if you want, you can go through and you can check them with our little dotted lines. Why not check a couple points? So The D's indeed line up. Our back part of C's line up. If I would have drawn my line at B properly, it would line up, and so on. So now using one of those two methods, either one in example one, because these are at the origin, or in example two, use those and please go ahead, pause the video, and then when you're ready, press play and we'll go through the answers. Hey, welcome back. So I've taken the liberty while you're gone, just labeling both of our diagrams. So here, we're going to take A, and it is at point 1/2 and 1. B is at point 1/2 and 2. C is at point 2/2 and 2. And D is at 2/2 and 1. So we're going to take these, we're going to multiply by our scale factor, and we'll find out where the resultant placement. So this will result in 1, 2. B prime is going to be 1, 4. C prime will be 5, 4. And lastly, D prime is 5, 2. So let's go ahead and plot these. So at 1, 2, is that one, 1, 4. We'll make our B, 5, 4, our C, and lastly our D. And once again, as always, connect our lines at the very end using a straight edge. Okay, sorry. On to our right one, same exact thing. So let's work with this. So A, we can start writing out the coordinate points. So A is at -4 and 1. B is at -4, 4. C is at -2 and 1. So we're having each of these for our primes. Sorry, that's too thick to see. So we're having these for our prime functions, or prime coordinates, I should say. So this is going to become -2 and 1/2. This will be 2, 2, and -1, 1/2. So -2 and 1/2 is there. 2 and 2. And sorry, I made a mistake with that. That should actually be the B point. That should be at -4. So that first one should be at -2. So we have -2 and 2. And we have -1 and 1/2. So we can now take our straight edge, connect our points ever so carefully, and we'll be done.